Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Today is Saturday, April 29th. Let's talk about a match that should have taken place when both guys were kings, when both guys were unbeaten, when both guys had titles, right? Deontay Wilder, a 5-year heavyweight champion, looking back on the length of his reign, against Anthony Joshua. Now, the rumor is that Joshua is waiting until December to fight Deontay Wilder. That's the open secret in boxing. Let's hope it happens. Now, I know I've talked about matchups between these two in the past, right? But now things have changed a bit. We've seen Wilder lose multiple times to Tyson Fury. We've seen Joshua literally have to reboot his camp, right? He's changed trainers. He has had some setbacks. The Andy Ruiz fight, both of the Usyk fights. So let's talk about where they are right now, how I see a matchup between Wilder and Joshua at a third location, right? Neither fighter is the home fighter. I think Joshua wins the fight because I think he has the better tools. Because AJ is cautious. Because guys like Kubrat Pulev, who, by the way, I thought would beat Joshua, because guys like Kubrat Pulev were able to get off the canvas, clear their heads, survive for several rounds past when a George Foreman or his mentor, a Sonny Liston, would finish him, right? Because AJ is cautious, I'm not sure if he beats Wilder by KO or by decision. Right, let's remember Jermaine Franklin just went the distance with Anthony Joshua. In my opinion, Wilder's only chance in this fight is a puncher's chance, although that's significant, given Wilder's success in getting knockouts. Let's talk about them. Joshua is the guy who wakes up on Christmas Day, looks under the tree, and sees that Santa has left him a huge, simply marvelous toolkit. He has power in both hands. He has an uppercut that he can throw during lulls in the action or when he's hurt, right? You might recall it's an uppercut that gives him the edge in the Vladimir Klitschko fight. Right? Let me point out that he can't, in my opinion, throw that uppercut in the flow of the action like a Martin Bakole could or like a Carl Froch could. He throws it during lulls in the action. Joshua has an underrated jab. I need for people to look closely at the Jermaine Franklin fight or the Joseph Parker fight. Right? In my opinion, AJ's jab is improving. He has an underrated left hook. Understand, the biggest fight of his career up to that point was his fight against Vladimir Klitschko. He drops Klitschko. When Klitschko gets off the canvas, this is the moment in Joshua's life where he can put the exclamation point at the end of the sentence. This is before Joshua himself gets dropped. His punch of choice is his left hook. Now, Klitschko is able to dodge the left hook, but you notice as Joshua's throwing it that it's a tight, very fast, contained left hook, right? Think Canelo, think Floyd. Now, the interesting thing in Joshua's game is you notice these tools as you're watching the match. He's not highlighting them. He's so cautious that Vladimir Klitschko has to be getting off the canvas for him to unleash a left hook that many fighters would make the centerpiece of their game. He also has a straight right that he can hit you with from across the ring. He has very heavy hooks with both hands to the body when he opens up. Now this sounds self-evident. Look at the White fight after he hurts White. Look at the Brazil fight after he hurts Brazil. This sounds self-evident, but understand, Deontay Wilder doesn't go to the body like Anthony Joshua does. Right? Joshua, when he wants to be, is a wicked body puncher. Right? Let me also say this too. There have been some great punchers in the sport, great, who move a little bit slow. Right? George Foreman's one of the best punchers I've ever seen. But George Foreman moved a little bit slow. Now, Anthony Joshua fights in what I call second gear. Right? You sense that there's more there than you're seeing. You sense there's a reserve, that Joshua is pacing himself. But I'm just telling you, Joshua has a gear that George Foreman, a better fighter than Joshua in my opinion, but George Foreman can't touch. Joshua at times can move extremely fast. Right? It's like a Reggie White, if you're into the NFL, right? A guy who on certain plays is just a step faster than on other plays. Right? Joshua can move quickly, more quickly than many other sluggers can at certain times. Right? He is an athlete in the heavyweight division. He also has legs where in the rematch against Andy Ruiz, right? You didn't know he had these legs before the rematch against Andy Ruiz. But in the rematch against Andy Ruiz, he was able to move away from Ruiz on demand. Right? In other words, you're looking at him, some heavyweights with those legs would be movers, but not Joshua. Right? It takes a loss. It takes a moment where he has to resuscitate his career to find out that Joshua could move away from Andy Ruiz, and he was able to do so the entire fight. In other words, he has stamina. He also has timing. Right? Povetkin, in my opinion, is dominating. I know this is not how the judges saw it, and that's fine. On my scorecard, Povetkin's dominating Joshua. He's moving in and out. He's moving in and out. He's throwing combinations, then he's getting out of dodge. Joshua gets hit. At one point, it looked like Joshua's mouth was swelling up. But then, Povetkin jumps in, and Joshua, with a short punch, has Povetkin timed. Hits Povetkin, who, right after the punch, looks like he's been in a car crash. Right? Joshua has timing when he's attacked. He's not the guy who can seek and destroy you. He's not Nigel Benn. Right? No, this is the guy who, when he's under siege, can shorten his punches, can time a guy who's jumping in from the outside. Let me say this too, and I just mentioned it. He can shorten his punches, and that's very important. Joshua is not a free-swinging heavyweight. Right? This is a guy who is more surgical than that when he's at his best. The Povetkin fight is just one such fight. Right? Joshua is contained within himself. He throws huge, heavy punches, but like Joe Louis, they're a bit short. It's a nice part of his game. Now, let me just say, he is a talent. Why isn't he dominating the heavyweight division? The question, even now, after an amateur career that nets him the Olympic gold medal. Right? He beat Zhili Zhang at the Olympics, folks. And after years of being a boxer, Joshua's now in his 30s. After years of having the heavyweight title, while we know that Joshua is a talent, the question still remains on whether he is a fighter. We're hypnotized by the talent. We sense that it's rare. Right? When he was champ, you thought there might be a paradigm shift. That the United Kingdom was about to take the heavyweight title to places it's rarely been. Now, believe it or not, that happened. But it happened with a different fighter, Tyson Fury. Right? When Joshua was champion, you thought, oh my goodness, this is the beginning of something great. Right? Unfortunately, for all the talents Joshua has, the two-handed power, the athleticism, right? Great left hook. I think he has a jab that could turn out to be a great jab. Right? One-punch knockout power. For everything he has, it still doesn't seem like he's put it all together. Right? This is not Canelo. This is not Crawford. And yet he seems like he could become Canelo or Crawford. And this is after a career where he's gotten the gold medal and he's had the title and he's already past his 20s. Right? You just get the feeling there's more there. Now, losing to Usyk, a fighter, in fact, a great fighter, isn't shameful. But not being aggressive for several rounds against a cruiserweight who just got to heavyweight country is baffling. Right? George Foreman, with slower hand speed, was more aggressive against a rough champion, Joe Frazier, than AJ was against new heavyweight Alexander Usyk. Here is what I think I know. AJ, on his A game, should beat Wilder. A big question is whether AJ knows what his A game is. Does AJ know how to enjoy and use the gifts he has been given? Folks, he has the tools. Does he have the big picture? Now, one of the reasons why this fight is compelling, Joshua Wilder, it's very compelling, right? Maybe I should say Wilder Joshua, because only one of these men fought Tyson Fury 3 times, right? Because Wilder held the heavyweight title longer than Joshua did. Because Wilder was willing to cross the Atlantic to fight Joshua, right? There's a contrast here between Wilder and Joshua. With AJ, things are complicated, right? Even AJ fans, and they are hardcore, right? I understand he's not as popular now as he was then, but AJ fans are hardcore. They understand their man is blessed with a lot of talent. But even AJ fans, after a few pints, are going to express some bewilderment over the fact that in front of his home crowd, Joshua was unable to put away Jermaine Franklin, that there seemed to be a gap between the pre-fight talk, right? I'll be disappointed if this fight goes the distance. and the actual fight performance, where you're looking at it, you're saying, okay, well, Jermaine Franklin's not running. Jermaine Franklin's around the pocket. Jermaine Franklin's taunting him. Jermaine Franklin wants a dust up. And it's as if Joshua's elevator didn't go to the top floor, right? Joshua wins the fight, but let's just say you didn't get the feeling Joshua was going for the knockout, right? This wasn't Ali where he's calling knockouts and he's knocking out people like Zora Fali. And then the time when the fight goes the distance, it's because Ernie Terrell insults Ali. So you get the feeling Ali decides, okay, I'm going to batter this brother. I want to punish him for the whole fight. Right? This wasn't the feeling you got for Joshua Franklin. Well, with Wilder, things are clearer. His philosophy seems to be the Mike Tyson puncher's philosophy. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Right? His straight right is one of the sport's crown jewels. He hit so hard that he hit Bermain Stavern on the chin. And Stavern thought he got hit in the back of the head. He hit so hard that Tyson Fury openly admits to this day that he was out cold before he beat the count, if you believe he did, at the count of 9 in their first fight. He hit so hard that Dominique Brazil is 100%. Folks, it's the first round. He's not even tired. He's completely lucid. The split second, and I mean the moment before, he's hit by Wilder. And then he's out cold. Wilder's not confused. It is not complicated for him. He knows he wants to knock you down with his right hand. The judges, who are they? Wilder fights rarely go the distance. In most, the scoring is a non-factor. Now, unlike Joshua, Wilder trusts his power. Whether it is in the first round when he KOs Brazil, or whether it's in the 12th round when he knocks down Tyson Fury in the first fight. But his gift is a right hand up top. Santa didn't leave him a right hand to the body or a left hand. He is the fastball pitcher who doesn't have other pitches. The only question is whether he's throwing the fastball in the strike zone or out of the strike zone. You don't have to steal signs because you know what's coming. The Wilder Bomb Squad keeps directing me to the left hook, and it was a good left hook, that he threw in the Bermain Stavern rematch to argue that he has more than a straight right hand. In my eyes, the fact that you have to look long and hard across several fights to find the meaningful Wilder left hand tells you that it's not there in most fights. Let's talk about these guys a little bit further. Let's be critical here. Neither is defensively blessed, right? Both stand way too tall. When Klitschko dropped AJ, all AJ could do was to cover up and linger by the ropes, right? You didn't get the feeling that AJ had a plan B on what exactly to do if he was hurt in the ring. Now, defensive fighters can feel the punches that might be coming back. Right? That's a skill you either pick up early in your career or you never develop it. Right? They have thought, literally, defensive fighters have thought of what could come back before they even throw their own punches. They're thinking of the sequence. Right? If I throw a lazy jab and this guy has a right hand, this guy can throw the right hand over my jab and clip me. So I either have to throw a jab that's not lazy, or I have to have my chin tucked down so that when I throw the jab, it's at an angle where the counter can't find my chin because my shoulder's in the way. The counter can't find my head because as I throw the jab, I'm leaning down. Right now, that part of the thought process is something that I believe a Mayweather thinks of intuitively. Right? A Bivol thinks of intuitively because that's how they learned the sport. Neither of these guys, Wilder or Joshua, thinks of that. Understand, this is alpha. The gifts they have are so overwhelming that they haven't had reason to actually learn the defensive side of the sport. Right? Neither of these guys is LeBron James, right? Think about LeBron. He was a big boy from the time he was young. But yet, for whatever reason, right, at a private high school, where you would think the guy would say, hey man, who's going to stop me? I'm bigger than everyone else. I can dominate the low post. For whatever reason, the LeBrons, the Magic Johnsons decide, well, what I know is not enough. Right? I've got to learn guard skills. Right? That's not either of these guys. Neither of these guys is defensively blessed. Right? I know Joshua knocks down Andy Ruiz in the first fight. I know many people were stunned when Ruiz got off the canvas. Right? I want you to look at that film. Look at how many times Joshua gets cuffed around. Ask yourself, where are his hands? Right? Let's just say a defensive fighter would not be in the pocket against the fastest hands in the heavyweight division. Right? A guy who throws a high percentage of power shots. As defenseless as Joshua was. Maybe Joshua thought he was one punch away, right, from getting the stoppage. But let's just say I guarantee you a Pernell Whitaker, even in that situation, wouldn't be as undressed as Joshua was. Right? You look at Deontay Wilder. Now, Tyson Fury, who is a great fighter, right? I know I rip him. I'm going to continue to rip him until he fights Usyk, quite frankly. But I know he's a great fighter. In the third fight, Tyson Fury, who, of course, in the second fight is measuring Wilder, is outside on Wilder. In the third fight, when he's hurt, right, that second knockdown, let's not kid ourselves, he's very hurt. Right, he was this close to getting stopped. Tyson Fury decides to come over on Wilder's left shoulder. Look at the film. Right? It's a brilliant move because understand, he prevents Wilder from throwing Wilder's right hand because he's that close to Wilder's left shoulder. And Wilder couldn't make the adjustment. He's hardwired. Worse yet, Wilder couldn't figure out how to stop Fury from cuffing him from that position for the rest of the fight. Right? There was no understanding, hey, I can't let this angle happen. That's how defensively blessed fighters think. right? They see Tyson Fury coming over. They're like, no, I saw this last round. I'm not going to give him that angle. I'm not going to have my backup on the ropes. I'm not going to be in this position. That's not how Wilder thinks. That's how Wilder gets pummeled in that third fight after having a clear advantage when he knocks Fury down the second time. Right, now let me just say this. AJ has changed trainers, and he has a great trainer. Well, he had a great trainer in Robert Garcia. He has a great trainer here too with Derrick James. Right? Derrick James's fighters are very different from each other. Right? Frank Martin, in the pocket, can lean his body. So he's the fighter who's in front of you, but you can't find him. Right? Errol Spence collapses the pocket. He's hyper-aggressive. He'll be where he's draped on you so you can't find him. This is different than Frank Martin. Frank Martin, he's actually in front of you, but he's leaning off at the side. He's leaning off at the side. With Errol Spence, he's literally draped on you. He's still able to get his offense off, and he has his body like on different sides of your body. Then, of course, Jamel Charlo, the best at 154. That's obvious now that Sebastian Fundora has lost. He's an ambush fighter. He'll be outside. Right? He's not draped on you. He's not in front of you, lingering in the pocket like Frank Martin. No, he's outside. He's outside the pocket. Then he jumps in the pocket. Bang, 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 bang. He'll jump in the pocket with body shots. Then he's gone. Right? Now, Derrick James can handle different styles. But what I think Derrick James is going to find out with AJ is AJ's in his 30s. Even though heavyweights age more slowly than everyone else, he's not going to be able to teach AJ great defense. That train has left the station. It just takes too much energy. Right? Think about the NBA. You know when a guy's a rookie, whether he's athletic enough to be a great defensive player and whether he values playing defense. Right? The great defenders enter the league playing defense. Right? You remember Gary Payton. There's never a time in the Gary Payton NBA career where he wasn't thinking of defense. It's the same way in boxing, right? AJ's more than 10 years into his career. Defense has been an afterthought. It's going to continue to be an afterthought. Derrick James can talk to AJ about positioning, can talk to him about not being in position after throwing punches to get hit with big straight right hands. Right? My point to you is neither of these guys is ever going to be defensively blessed. Right? That's a rarity these days in the heavyweight division. Right? So, let me just say, too, a word of caution. You look at the Robert Helenius fight that Wilder just had. You look at the last knockdown Wilder gets against Fury, and you realize that Wilder now has figured out how to shorten that right hand. Right? It's no longer the straight right hand, long right hand that he hits Audley Harrison with. He still has that punch. But now he has a shorter punch where if you try to get too close to him, where he can't get full extension on that long right hand, he can still knock you out. Right? I thought Helenius looked good against him. Helenius has him right where he wants him, up in the corner. Helenius dives in, gets hit, can't continue. That's how hard Wilder hits. So, let's talk about what can be done in this fight. You're Anthony Joshua. You understand Wilder wants to come with a straight right hand up top. The problem with having this defense, let's say I put my left hand up to block it, is we know that Wilder can actually change the trajectory of the punch. Look at the Luis Ortiz fight. He can throw it straight so it hits you on the chin. Right? AJ has a few months to work on this. I'm just telling you, master level. George Foreman. Understand, Foreman had Archie Moore in his corner. Archie Moore is a legend at light heavyweight. Archie Moore, big puncher, just like Foreman. Right? Archie Moore's defense was like this. The reason it's important, in my opinion, for AJ to at least consider this is if you have your hand like this, even if Wilder gets the punch straight, you have chin coverage. More importantly, you can have a hand up like this. If you have AJ's left hook, and I'm telling you folks, it's Canelo level. If you have AJ's left hook, if he can catch Wilder's shot, he'll have Wilder exposed. This left hand, all he has to do is wing it back like Foreman used to. It's ready to be thrown. He can throw it low. Wilder's a thinner guy, work Wilder's body, or he can come up top with it. Throw the left hooks he's trying to land against Vladimir Klitschko. Right? I believe if AJ just reconfigures his defense a little bit, easier said than done, so that he has a hand across to catch Wilder right hands up top, he could do damage. That would allow him to stand in front of Wilder. Let me say this too. This stance would allow him to throw left hooks at Wilder. Right? You can't do that if you're protecting against Wilder's right hand with your left. Right? The problem is then you start throwing left hooks, guess what? That chin's unprotected. He needs to have a hand parked at all times. Since he's not defensively blessed and he can't feel the punch coming and he can't roll with the punch, in my opinion, he needs to have a hand parked at all times or a shoulder parked. Georgie Benton, look him up online. A shoulder parked at all times to protect his chin and to protect the angle. Right? Let me say this too. He wants to be moving away from Wilder's right side. So he wants to be moving to his right side. Right? Don't allow a pocket to just stagnate there. Right? We just saw a fight. Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis. I thought it was an interesting fight. Were there moments in the fight where, folks, the pocket, that's such a pocket-centric fight. Only Davis is moving laterally. But there are times where Davis and Garcia just look at each other. Right? Just look at each other. And you're thinking, what are these brothers thinking? Right? Both have punches. Do you really want to be stationary in front of a puncher? An arm's length away? Right? Mid-range, AJ needs to avoid at all costs. Stagnant pockets, AJ needs to avoid at all costs. He needs to focus on the 3 Fury fights. The first fight, Fury's dancing around Wilder. It throws off Wilder's rhythm, at least for the first 5 rounds. Right? AJ might want to think about that. He has the legs. Right? Come out, dance a little bit. Confuse Wilder. Have a strategy the first few rounds that you're going to change later. So you build up the lead. And then later in the fight, you're introducing new dynamics that doesn't allow Wilder to make the adjustment. right? You either need to be measuring Wilder from too far away, like Fury did in the second fight, right? Just like Gervonta Davis sticks out his right hand to measure Ryan Garcia. Think about that, right? If you look at the second fight between Fury and Wilder, you'll notice Fury sticking out his hands to make sure he's too far away from Wilder to get hit with that straight right hand, right? If I'm AJ, I have to realize I need to fight this either too far away from Wilder or up on Wilder's left shoulder, like Fury fights the last few rounds of their last fight. What I can't do is stand Audley Harrison distance away from Wilder and not have there be some lateral movement or some action. You do that, you end up like Audley Harrison, knocked out, right? Let me finish up this video, which is a bit too long already. AJ needs to also figure out that Wilder is not a combination puncher, right? He can only throw that straight right hand as the first or second punch he throws in a sequence, right? Sometimes Wilder throws a lazy jab, then comes over with the right hand, right? But understand it's early in the sequence, right? He's not Andy Ruiz. That straight right hand is not going to be tucked in as punch number 4 in a combination. That's not who Wilder is. So he needs to understand that if he sees Wilder throwing a lazy jab, get away from Wilder's right side, right? Also, let me say this too. If Wilder is 3 punches into a combination, jump in, because he's not going to throw the straight right hand, right? I'm not a trainer. I just pretend to be one here online, right? I'm just another person betting on these fights like all of you. I'm just sharing my thoughts, right? Let me just say this too, and I know this sounds a little bit dirty. AJ needs to run into Wilder, right? Understand, it all hurts. Right? Right hand, left hand, headbutt, body running into a guy. Wilder's a tall, thin guy. He doesn't have AJ's muscle mass, right? If I'm AJ and I need to get inside, I don't need to be smooth with it. Just run inside, right? Just run inside and run up against Wilder. Right? The point is you want to be physical with this guy. You don't want to be stagnant at mid-range. Right? If you're going to run into the pocket and bounce up against him. Make this a physical affair. If the only way you can get off hard hooks to the body is to run inside and bounce up against him and lean on him, then that's what you need to do. Right? Finally, let me just say this too. Don't get lulled into a headshot contest with Deontay Wilder. Right? Wilder's a tall guy who stands too straight. There's not a lot of fat to cushion body shots. Right? If I'm AJ and I get inside, why not just start throwing right hands to the body? Right? If you feel comfortable that you have the right hand blocked, and that's a big if, that's a big ask, why not throw left hooks to the body? Right? One of the problems with Wilder is he's tall and he stands tall. He knows how, and it's a skill he has, he knows how to leverage his height better than most. He'll actually lean backward. Right? If his head is unreachable, throw punches to his body. I noticed too, Wilder, when Chris Arreola got inside, was able to clinch Arreola. Keep throwing punches during the clinch. keep hitting him to the body. If you could avoid the clinch by having an armbar, have an armbar. Keep a hand free. Use those moments to work over his body. Just remember, mid-range is the enemy. Just remember, Wilder's right side is the enemy. You want to be tight on Wilder. Anyway, that's how I see it. I think AJ wins the fight. I think AJ has the tools, right? AJ has a hard time using them in the flow. He's a bit hesitant. I'm not sure what can be done about that. I saw where Robert Garcia tried to have AJ crouch down a little bit more and stuff like that. AJ had problems with that against a smaller heavyweight in Usyk. Right? I say smaller, I mean by AJ standards. Just understand Usyk's actually bigger than Sonny Liston. Right? And so the question here is which AJ shows up? Right? AJ's not the kind of guy, he's not Nigel Benn. He's not a guy who's going to enter the ring and is going to say, okay, this guy's on the clock. You know, I want to hit the pub after the fight. I'm going to push the issue and see if this guy can push back. That's not AJ. Right? AJ's a guy who needs to see the lay of the land, who needs to take his time. The only time he really fights back early is when he's under siege. Right? Round prop bets are dangerous here. Both men have first round KOs. I'm not questioning their power. I'm just saying there are fights where AJ is cautious for several rounds. There are fights where Deontay Wilder is doing next to nothing for several rounds, right? That second, in fact, both Luis Ortiz fights, right? I would argue the Gerald Washington fight. You know, Wilder is a bit confused early in that fight, right? So the round props are difficult here, but if AJ shows up with his A game, I think he wins the fight. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I believe Wilder's only chance is a puncher's chance. I guess that would make the hedge Wilder by stoppage. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. I'm sure the casinos are going to prevent all of us from taking AJ simply to win with Wilder by stoppage. I'm sure the casinos are going to be on it by calibrating things so it's difficult, where we have to think about things like over-unders. When the casinos place a full price book on this fight, I'll be back on here with further thoughts. Let me know what you think. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.